her words. It may be a blessing. I really want to get started because I know I've talked to Angelia a few times, and I know she has a lot to say. I'm just so excited that this is finally working out. I really wish so much it was in person, but I'm just very excited to say this and to start. So I'm going to just start with a little prayer. Dear God, I'm quoting from Matthew 5:9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they are the sons of God. Thank you for people who step up and make peace, and may we all be brave enough to make peace, and we know that you want us to do that, and that we are qualified, and that you want us to be sons of God. Thank you for this opportunity to hear from Angelia and her words, and may it may be a blessing to all of us. Amen.
Amen.
So Angelia, you want to give your bio, or do you want me to give a quick little bio?
You could do it.
Okay. So Angelia,
It's actually Angelia, and that's
why. Oh, Angelia, got it. Okay.
Yeah, that's hence why everybody calls me Bianca, because my whole life nobody has ever been able to pronounce my name the way it's spelled.
Okay. Okay. So Angelia, I'm just gonna give a minor thing. She wrote the book called In Deep, and I know Jackie, I know you're reading it now. I know a couple book groups in our church have already read the book. It's how I survived gangs, heroin, and prison to become a Chicago violence interrupter. And Angelia is calls herself an anti-violence advocate, and she has spoken on every continent except Antarctica about being a violence interrupter. So I will let her take it away. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And yeah, I always joke and say, well, I don't know, unless they have eventually one day in Antarctica start having violence, I don't think I'm going to be making it there. But first of all, I just want to say I am so grateful to God for the favor he has shown upon my life. And for those of you reading the book, please keep in mind I'm no longer that person. So I always tell people that I speak with, I no longer think the way I once thought, so I no longer behave the way I once behaved. Yeah, so that just sums it up right there. You know, my whole thinking has been rewired, and I attribute the whole thing from one person giving me one sentence and then me saying a prayer, and I never looked back, right? And my life, I mean, like addiction and gangs and all that stuff can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter. You know, my family's not like real rich or anything like that, but you know, I didn't go without anything. I grew up as a young child in Little Italy. And then when they started dismantling Little Italy, they knocked down our whole block of Polk Street, which is now a parking lot. But anyway, and then we moved to Oak Park, and I started getting by like, you know, 9 years old, I started getting high. And I was raised by my grandmother, my father's mother. My mom left us when I was 5, and I'll leave it to the book, you guys reading the book, so I don't spoil it. I did reunite with my mother. God bless, both my parents have now passed away, and my father never got to see me change my life, but my mother did. So I am so grateful to God for that. I was able to spend the last 5 years of my mother's life with her, and her being proud finally. And there's no greater gift that you can give to a mother than to give the mother her child back. There's no greater gift, right? So when my mother died, though, how heartbreaking that was, and the guilt of that, I was like, you know, oh, I should have had more time, and it was just horrible. But she died knowing where all her children were. She died knowing that her daughter, well, they called me Ange, but we'll say Angelia, that I was okay. So she no longer, she's so proud. She was very proud of me, you know, and from having a broken heart. So I only wish my grandma and my father could have seen that. But so I spent 36 years in and out of jail, Cook County Jail, the penitentiary. I did a total of 12 years in the penitentiary. I think I've done every crime except I've never shot or killed anybody. anyway, when I would be early, I was telling them earlier before we started, or like early on in prison or jail, I would see women that, because everybody's got to figure out a way to deal with that, you know, I'm in jail, I can't get out, you lost your freedom. It's kind of like, for some people have a harder time than others. And how are you going to deal with that? So a whole lot of women will pick up a Bible and I'm reborn again and start really going all in on the, you know, I'm saved, I love God, which is great, right? But they have no intention of changing their lives. Then they get out and they go right back to the other life, right? So I early on noticed that, and I thought, you know, like I don't want to be a fake, you know what I mean? So I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to change my life. So I don't want to offend God even more than I already have, right? And so so I mean, I used to go to church every Sunday, and I was telling them, I even got in the prison church, I was the altar girl and I became the bell ringer, which I felt really important about that. And now looking back, I wish that when I went the Catholic school I went to, I look back and I think, I should have been the little altar girl, or well, they only had altar boys back in my day because I'm almost 63, but I could have maybe been the bell ringer. I don't know. But anyway, so I lived this life of heroin addiction for 36 years. I started at 9 with my little friend Keith, and we were just real kids out of control. And I don't think it, you know, I don't think, and then I had a grandma, so I never really got too much in trouble, and maybe yelled at an Italian, and then that would be the end of it, you know. But his father was dying of cancer, and wait, let me turn my air off. Hold on. Because I know sometimes it will echo. Anyway, so we decided, I don't know who came up with the bright idea, but we decided we would take some of his pills, his medications. And so we did. We stole some of his dying father's cancer medications, which were in turn, we didn't know them, but now I know it was morphine, you know, some type of major pain medicine. And we liked it. And then we started stealing more of his pills that were like downers. And, you know, I remember early on being like, I don't know, probably 9, 10, standing out in Oak Park at the, I think it was called the National Grocery Store at that time, on Harlem and Randolph or Washington, one of them. Anyway, and I can't even imagine that because I have grandchildren that are 10, you know, but standing out in front with like our little, probably 50 cents back then, can you buy us a bottle of Boone's Farm, you know, and then somebody would, or, you know, buy us a bottle of wine. And I would always, I didn't really like the feeling of alcohol, and it made me sick and all that. And then when we stole the barbiturates, it was like, oh, it's the same feeling as being drunk, except for I don't have to drink. And I'm, you know, so that's hence I was never much of a drinker, but a pill popper, yes. And so that ended at 17 years old starting heroin. Then I joined a gang. I joined the Latin Kings in Humboldt Park because I was hanging there, buying drugs, buying heroin, selling drugs. I mean, it just, boy, I know that I had guardian angels, and I don't know if it's because of my grandmother's prayers for me, that she prayed constantly for me. Even there was a time that I didn't see my children, my family, for almost 17 years. They didn't know if I was alive or dead. I had my Aunt Louise, that would have, when the internet, years ago, she would just call all the jails and try to see if she could find me. And then once the internet came into play, she'd have her grandson look me up and then find me in somebody's jail. And she was the only one that never gave up on me. She never sent me, she'd send me $5 a month, which is nothing, but just for my coffee. She'd be like, there's your bag of coffee for the month. So anyway, so I want to fast forward. My aunt always, when she would find me, the first letter would chew me out. It would completely chew me out, you know, how your children and how this, that, and it like almost made me, I would be crying, right? And and then it would be like inspiring, trying to uplift me that she really believed in that, you know, and maybe this time she'll get it. But of course, it took many, many years. So I want to fast forward to so my father, I got a letter from her, and she said, you know, your father had a few heart attacks. He's really sick. He's in the hospital. Like, it wasn't looking good. So and this is a real God moment that I learned later. And I don't know how true this is, but I believe this. But so it was January 10th, 2011. And it was that, and I'm like kind of always, even though I was really messed up in that life, I'm like an undercover geek kind of a girl, you know? And I think that I went down that road at a young age because I was bored. So I always encourage parents to, if they notice that with their children, like embrace what they're what it is that they're trying to do. Like, you know, if they like to do sports, take them to games. Like with me, I was real smart in school to the point where I didn't even hardly have to study, and I'd just take the test and pass. And it was boring to me, you know. But I have a very creative side, like art, all types of creative things, you know, like piano and things like that. But I don't think that was nurtured. I don't enough, you know, or at all. I don't blame my family, because we have to remember we're talking the 1960s. My family are immigrants from Sicily, very old school, uneducated themselves, you know. I don't think I don't even think my grandma or any of them graduated high school, and then nor did my father and his two siblings, my aunt and my uncle. So, and then after all that, I just have to say this, after all that life, and now over 11 years doing good things, I went back to college. I got my GED in prison. And then I went back to college, and last year I graduated from Northeastern Illinois University with my bachelor degree in inner city studies, urban studies. So, and it's like now at family things, when we talk, they're like, the most unlikely of the bunch ends up graduating college. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I know, right? You know, so it's not like I wanted to get a new job or anything. I just wanted to start something and finish it, right? Because I knew I just had to do that for myself. And it was a great achievement. But anyway, back to the story. So so I was always like an undercover geek. And so on January 10th, so I'm in a dorm with 20 women. And so after 9 p.m., the rule in prison, you can't talk, right? So you could sit in your area, you can watch your TV with your headphones or listen to the radio if you have one, or if you have a TV, but you can't talk. There's no talking anymore, right? And the lights are out. When I'm sitting with my little small light in my bunk, and I'm like with like Miss Mathematician trying to figure out, I'm like, okay, wow, tomorrow's 1 1 1 1 1. When is the next time we'll have a 1 1 1 1 1, right? So I'm trying to figure this out. Will it be in 100 years? And I was really stressing on it. And to the point where I left my area and went and woke up another girl, and she was like, Bianca, stop. I want to go to sleep. I don't care. I don't care when the next time January 11th will be, you know, of 11. Like, I'm like, will it be in 20 or 3011? Or like, I was like going crazy. So that's how I was thinking the night before. The next morning, the officer comes to my cell, and he says, the social worker wants to talk to you. So I go to the social worker's office, and I kind of knew it would have something to do with my father. Figured my aunt called. And so I sat down, and she took my hand, and she said, I am so sorry to have to tell you this, but this morning your father passed away from a heart attack in Gottlieb Hospital. And so I started crying immediately, more out of guilt, thinking what a horrible daughter that I am. I couldn't say goodbye to my father. It was just, the guilt was overwhelming, right? And I was like crying. And of course, still it was my father though, you know, but anyway, but the guilt was killing me. So the counselor took my hand and she said to me, I want you to take comfort that your father died peacefully and with all his loved ones around him. And so I sucked it up. I went back to my cell. And now I'm in my cell, laying in my bed, replaying it in my head, replaying what she said. And it dawned on me. And I thought, he died peacefully with his loved ones. And I started thinking, because at the time I think I was like 50, right? Or something, 50, I don't know. I'm 62, I'll be 63 in August. So I was probably like 51. So I started thinking, it dawned on me, which I never had before. I mean, I know we all die, but I never thought about it, right? So I said, wait, we all have to die. We're all gonna die one day. So that's a good way to die. You know, we all have to die. So die with your loved ones peacefully. That's a good way to die, right? And when our time comes. And I thought, I'm not going to be afforded that luxury. I'm going to die in an alley by myself from a heroin overdose or a bullet. And that scared me. And I started like getting like, oh my God, like reviewing and like, then I was like picturing myself in a morgue. And I was thinking, okay, I don't carry ID. So they're going to have to fingerprint me. They'll know my name. Well, they know who I belong to because I'm like way in now living in the projects on the west side of Chicago. Like, are they going to even know how to contact anybody? Who does this person, Angelia Bianca, belong to, right? And then what was even worse is that I thought if they did find out who I belonged to, I was picturing my family going, you know, she's been dead to us for 17 years and we're not going to put her children through that. So do whatever you want with her body, you know, do whatever you want. Thanks for letting us know, you know? And so, and now this is like all these years later, I bring that up and my family swears, we would never have done that to you. We would have came and got you and had a funeral. And I'm like, no, stop it. You would not have, you know, but they all, yeah, I don't know, who knows. Thank God we don't have to even think about that now. Right. But, so I'm thinking about all this, and the girl that was in the bed next to me, she was older than me, and she had a lot of time to do. And she was a not fake, a real, true, reborn again Christian. And she was the nicest person, Barbara. We called her Miss Barbie, and she was trying to talk with me and console me. She was probably like 65, and I was like, she was about 15 years older than me. And she was the sweetest woman. And I always felt bad that she was in jail, but you know how it goes. So, but anyway, she said, Bianca, do you know how to pray? And I said, I believe in God and Jesus. And I go, I don't know. And she goes, have you ever prayed? And I go, yeah, but not the kind of prayers I think that God wants, you know? And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, well, I mean, I used to pray, God, please let the dope man be here. God, please don't let me get arrested. God, please let the judge let me out on my own recognizance with no bond, you know? God, please let the judge not give me a lot of time in prison, you know? So those are really not prayers, you know? Like, so I said to her, I can't pray to God because God has nothing for me because I've been a really horrible person. And to think that I used God as like my co-defendant, my rappy, you know, like we're going to go, please don't let me get caught stealing in Banana Republic, you know? So, and I had the nerve that when I'd go steal to like, as I'm walking into Nordstrom's, God, please don't let me get arrested. Like, oh my God, the nerve I had, right? So anyway, so she kept talking to me and saying, no, just talk to God. However you want to talk to him, he can hear you. And I was like, well, I'll think about it. And I kept thinking about it. And I felt like God just didn't have anything for me, right? So anyway, I finally said, because I was still in that mindset, criminal mind in a way, you know, I didn't know any other kind of thinking process. So my thought thing was, I was always like the hustler. I'll make a deal with you. I'll make a deal with you. I'll give you this watch for this much and blah, 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 so horrible, in my past. So I made a deal with God. That was my prayer. I said, God, I'll make a deal with you. If you will take the taste, and I really legit waited till after 9 that night. It was dark in the room. I was crying, silently crying, tears coming down my face. And I had my eyes shut with tears. And I said, God, I'll make a deal with you. If you will take the taste of the heroin and the streets from my mouth until my last dying breath, I will help people. And that was my prayer. And so I later learned, so like being the geek I am, looking up 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, all this stuff, that like mathematicians and people that do theories and stuff have said that when you see numbers in sequence, especially the number 1, but like 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, or like the more, so one is really important of a guardian angel. So I started thinking, I believe that, and so I say, in my father's death, he gave me life. I know that I was born and he gave me life, but in his death, he gave me life, because that, and I was way closer to my grandmother, obviously. She was my whole life. And excuse me, she died in 2004 while I was in prison. And I was so distraught. I couldn't even get out of bed for a month, and you don't get to do that in prison, and because you have an assignment, or you just can't go, like, I don't feel like doing anything, I'm just going to stay in bed, So, but my aunt called and talked with the warden and made him understand like how much this was affecting me. And the warden kind of said, just leave her alone. Just let her, she'll come around, And I eventually did. And I'm grateful for that warden for allowing me that time to grieve. And, but anyway, so when I got out, I thought, in an effort, okay, so I'm going to try, because I made this promise to God. So I'm going to try. And so I did parole to a place, A Safe Haven Foundation, and in Chicago. And I ended up living there 8 months, and I never looked back, right? But the purpose, my purpose that God bestowed upon me, and to make me realize what my purpose in life is, was when Safe Haven, like maybe after like 6 weeks, would say, here's a pass, and we want you to go to this community center, and they're going to help you make a resume or apply for some jobs or whatever. So I would be on the bus and just sitting on the bus and going through, because Safe Haven's on California and Roosevelt, the hood. So I'd be driving, on the bus, and I'd see like a crowd of young guys, or wherever I'd be, right? And I literally would, and I'm like, oh, I made a promise to God. And then I would literally stand up and make the bus driver stop. And he'd go, ma'am, I can't stop to the next stop, No, you don't understand. I have to get off right now. I mean, like, I was so dramatic, that they probably thought, oh, here's a crazy woman, and we're going to have to call an ambulance. So just let her get off, right? So I was like, you don't understand. I made a promise to God. I have to get off this bus right now. And like, oh, okay, lady, So I would get off the bus, and I'd walk over to young teenage kids that I knew were, because I lived that life. So I knew they were in gangs, and they didn't know me. And I would just start to talk to them, When I first, okay, I know you guys don't know me. So they call me Bianca, and I'm not the police. I'm not the FBI. I just want to, and they're like, okay, what, you need some bags? Or no, I'm sober. I don't do anything. But and then I just start joking with them in a light way. And then maybe they found me entertaining. I don't really know, but they would talk to me. So I kept doing this. And then it turned out where a program manager from Ceasefire happened to see me over a course of a month, maybe 3 different times. And he finally was like, wait, whoever the kid was with a couple of guys on his team, violence interrupters. And he was like, wait, stop the car. This is boggling my brain. Who is this woman? So he got out of the car, and I'm standing there with about 7, 8 young guys, African-American. And he walks over and they all knew him. They're like, hey, J-Dub, how you know, and blah, blah, blah. So he was like, you know, he goes, hey, to me, hey, sister. And I go, hey, how are you? And he goes, what is your name? And I go, well, they call me Bianca. And he goes, oh, okay. Can I talk to you? And I go, sure. And he said, can you walk with me? And I go, sure. So we walk a little ways. He goes, do you know those guys? And I go, well, I know them now. I didn't an hour ago, but now I do, you know? And then he said, do you know they're in a gang? And I go, yeah. Do you know they probably have guns on them or nearby? Yeah. How do you know that? I go, because I used to be them. And he said, what are you saying to them? And I go, I'm kind of in a light way, bonding with them and letting them know the ugly side up front. Like, when you go to prison, and trust me, if you don't change your life, you will. I don't want you to be shocked the way I was when the prison door slams and you're not getting out for 10 years, you know? So he said, wow, you're doing the work of a violence interrupter. And I said, I don't even know what that is. And he said, have you heard of ceasefire? And I said, yeah, yeah, you're the, like, I really didn't know, like, who paid attention to that back then? You know, I mean, I know I didn't. I was like, oh yeah, the people, you're the people, yeah, that hold the sign, don't shoot, I want to grow up, you know? And he's like, yeah, but it's way more than that, you know? And he said, you want a job? And I said, I was happy. I was working at some part-time salad place, being traumatized by balsamic dressing that I never heard of, you know? And I was like, that was a whole, that's in the book too. That's kind of a funny part because you know, why would I know that? I thought there was one type of salad, and I knew about French, Italian, creamy garlic, and Thousand Island, you know? And then I got this little job like 3 days a week or something, like part-time, while I was at Safe Haven. And it was like all this like choices. Like I remember, like, you put like a cucumber and a tomato, maybe some olives on your salad, right? Like, what? I was living in abandoned buildings. Why would I know about salad, right? So the lines at the merchandise mart were like, the place was filled, crazy people wanting, like, crazy for salad. And there was like 3 kinds, like mixed greens, the spinach, blah, blah. I'm like, oh my God. And they're like, yeah, and till this day, I can't even pronounce some of those toppings. Okay. And so chickpeas, and I'm like, sir, I'm new. Can you just point to what you want? You know, oh, I want this, and then the balsamic. And I'm like, I've never even heard of that. Right. And then, okay, I'm like trying to, and there's no labels, and I'm holding the line up, and the poor other workers were like, could you move it along? It was like an assembly line. And then who knew there was like raspberry balsamic and this balsamic and that one. And I was like, oh my God. So for this man to say, do you want a job? And that the salad place was minimum wage. And back then was probably, I don't know, maybe not even $8 an hour, 7 something, right? So for him to offer me a job doing something that I seemed to love and doing something that I promised God I would do for 15 bucks an hour, I was like, yeah, you know. So I went on the interview. You had to go in front of a panel. And I was so excited because I really hadn't had a real job, and like probably since I was a teenager and working at the stock market at the CBOE summers. But so I, you know, like I was still living at Safe Haven, and I went and got like some dollar press on nails, and you know, and somebody lent me like their little, like not a briefcase, but kind of like the little folder where you can put your resumes in, you know, you zip it. And so I had that. And then the thrift store gave me a suit for free. So I was like, and somebody lent me some little, you know, professional heels. And and then one of the girls there did my hair. I was so excited. I wanted to be I wanted to look like, oh my God, I'm a professional woman now, you know? So I'm in the workforce, you know? So I got there, and so I probably would have been better off just bringing my rap sheet, right? So, because you have to have credibility to do this work in order for, you know, you can't, you know, help somebody because they'll go, you don't understand. You don't understand. And so like, yeah, I do understand because I this is what I've been through. And then you get their attention. But anyway, one of the men on the panel said, I don't know. I think maybe you'd be better as executive assistant at somewhere downtown. And I was thinking, oh my God, like I almost wanted to die. And they all voted no, except for the original guy who offered me the job. And this decision was up to him. And he said, I have a feeling about this girl, and I don't care what any of you say, but I'm going to hire her. If it goes bad, it falls in my lap. I'll take the responsibility. So he hired me, and we never looked back. Until this day, he's been in management all his life. He works somewhere else now, but he told me I remain his best hire, you know? So, but anyway, so, I want to just go one for a second off base, and I use this to tell people when I speak sometimes when they say like, because like you at-risk youth or high-risk young adults involved in high-risk street activity, why won't they listen to the teacher, the mother, the father, the grandmother, you know, the social worker, you know? Why? You know, no, they won't. The policeman, they won't listen, right? So I always tell people a story that Miss Barbie told me in prison, and she said that there was, I don't know if this is, I guess this is a made up story. I don't know, maybe some of you have heard it, but I never did, and I really enjoyed this little short story. And she said there was a couple that lived out on a farm. And the woman was a devout, you know, Christian and loved God and lived, you know, by God, right? And her husband was an atheist and did not believe in God. So one day she had to leave the farm and to go wherever, and he was alone, and a tornado started coming. And so he was trying his hardest to get the farm animals into the barn and to save their lives, you know, to get them out of harm's way, right? And so there was a flock of geese, and every time he would go, he was trying to get the geese to go into the barn or some shelter. And every time he would go near the geese, they would go farther from him. And he kept doing that, knowing that if they stayed out there, they'd be killed. So he said, God, if only I could be a goose just for a minute, they would surely follow me into the barn. So then that made a lot of sense to me. So that's why people, you know, like whatever your forte is, that you're expert in, that you've been through in your life, if you share that with someone else affected, just like Terry, you gave me that story about parents grieving, losing a baby, or, you know, like if you can't understand or you haven't been there, they won't listen to you, right? So anyway, I got the job, and I still work at UIC. I don't work for Ceasefire anymore. I still work at UIC. I now work in the College of Medicine with telemedicine, and I work with the prison population that have HIV or Hep C, and UIC has a program where they provide the medication through the Ryan White Foundation funding to get HIV patients in the Illinois Department of Corrections medication, so that way they become undetectable, and their T cell count rises and the viral load goes down, and they're undetectable. Undetectable means you can't even give it to somebody. So I am the resource girl. So I am the person that when they are paroled, so what would make you not take your medicine, right? Okay, if you return to a high risk street activity lifestyle, getting high, you're probably not going to take your HIV, that one pill a day, right? Or you're going to miss doctor appointments, then you'll get sick. So that's what I do now. And again, my experience works with that situation. And a lot of, when we're on the telemedicine on the TV at UIC, sometimes like my boss will go, and I want to introduce you to my, you know, this is Bianca. And then the inmate on the other side in the prison will go like this. Wait, is that Bianca from the West Side? And then I heard you were doing good. And I'm like, God, you know, like, yeah, and you're going to do good too. So, but anyway, but it's like kind of like almost, it's like hilarious. My boss is like, how do you, and I'm like, look, everyone at UIC knows, you know, I mean, you can't even get a job at UIC without a rap sheet, getting fingerprinted. So of course I was cleared already. And, you know, I mean, so I've worked there for probably, I don't know, 8-9 years, you know, but anyway, so, but it's kind of, I feel inspiring for someone to see that, right? That knows that, oh, like even the females are like, I was locked up with you, oh my God, you know? And every now and then I'll have like a white jacket on. And so I was laughing with our main doctor is Dr. Patel. I don't know if you know him, Terry, but he's a great guy. And we were laughing, and Melissa, our main pharmacist. And so we were laughing one day because I said I had that white jacket on and we were on the telemedicine. And I said, this is how it goes in prison. So the person we talked to, when they went back on grounds, they're now all over the prison. They're going, I swear to God, Bianca's the doctor now. I swear to God, you know? So I just know how it is. So I always go, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a social worker, you know? But anyway, so people say to me, God made you go through that lifestyle for 36 years so you could do what you do now. And I don't agree with that because I believe God is loving. He loves us all. And there's no way in my mind you can convince me that in God's kingdom, there, like he was planning that my mother was going to have this little baby girl. And he said, this little baby girl is going to become a prostitute and a junkie and a criminal and do time in prison and not raise her children. God's not going to say that, right? We have free will. We make our own choices, right? So I believe that when my heart was pure and God knew it was pure, he saw inside. I believe that God opened the doors and allowed me to understand that I can use that experience to help others now, to understand the poverty, the loneliness, the addiction, the homelessness, the gangs, the shooting. I've been shot, you know, I mean, so I believe that he gave me a positive path and God opened doors for me. And I mean, I love my job at UIC and, you know, I mean, I get paid a decent living wage and all that, but people follow me on social media and I travel a lot. I'm not paying for it because I get invited to do things or speak or whatever. But so the point I'm trying to make here is I'm not rich. I don't have money. I haven't even made money on my book because you got to pay the advance back first. So I haven't even made $1 yet, right? So it's not about money to me. It's like a good lifestyle, right? So according in my mind, I am the richest person in the world because God has shown immense favor. I want to cry right now. I am so grateful for the favor that he has shown upon my life and reuniting with my whole family and my children. And my grandchildren were pretty young when I changed my life around. So they don't really know anything different other than the occasional, now they're getting older. Grandma, I Googled you. I'm like, oh God, you know, and, you know, Grandma, you're in like, okay, stop Googling me, you know? And then my 10-year-old granddaughter sends me a picture and calls me, Grandma, I'm with my mommy and we're in Barnes and Noble and I see your book on the shelf and I go, oh, okay, Gemma. So, but you do know you can never read that book, right? Not until after you're 21. And then, so I probably shouldn't have said that because now they're going to probably want to read it, right? But anyway, so I said, so she had some friends with her from school. And I go, did you tell your friends that your grandma? And she goes, oh no, they would never believe me. No, I can't do that. They'll make fun of me. And I go, oh, God, you know, so that's how God has blessed me. You know, like I have this great relationship. And because I don't know if it's true scientifically or not, like, well, it is true, our frontal lobe, which I never even knew that word until after I started working at UIC, because why would I know that as a criminal, right? So it's hilarious, but it's the truth. So some years ago, because during my job, while I was working at Ceasefire, we'd have to give presentations. And there's this one man a colleague that I work with, Andre Thomas, really, you know, he's got a background like, you know, similar, or did more time, but same type of background. Anyway, but he's really smart, you know? So anyway, so he's talking first. And so, and then I'm going to talk. And then actually it was at UIC, we were giving the lecture at the Department of Criminal Justice. Anyway, we're giving the lecture to the graduating class. So I'm sitting there when he's talking, and he starts talking about, and as we know, the frontal lobe doesn't even mature until the late 20s, and blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, because Bianca, right, Bianca? And I go, oh, absolutely. I had no idea what he was talking about. I never even heard that word before. And but I played it off. I go, oh, absolutely. So when it was over, as we're walking out, he's like, what are you doing? I'm like this. And he goes, what are you doing? And I go, I'm Googling frontal lobe. And he just busted up laughing. He's like, wait, you don't know what that is? And I go, no, I don't, So, but they say that it doesn't, actually develop until your late 20s. Now, I started getting high at 9 continuously until 51 years old or 50. So obviously mine probably didn't quite kick into gear. I don't know. I mean, that's your decision-making area, right? And I think now it's probably matured, although the good part of it is that when I'm with my grandchildren, I can still I act like I'm 6 years old with them, so even to the point to where my son is like, oh my God, Mom, you're like a 6-year-old, will you stop, like laughing and crawling around the floor. But I'm just blessed. I'm really, really blessed, so I just feel that I want to, it's not a matter of I want to keep my promise to God. It just comes totally naturally now. And it's not only about violence. I get calls not calls or messages through social media from literally around the world. From it could, I mean, like whatever it is, it's not only, I don't only focus on violence. It's homelessness, drug addiction. I had a woman, and we'll take some questions in a second, but I just have to tell you this story because this is kind of funny. So I get a lot of messages. I found a gun in my son's drawer, or a bottle of codeine cough syrup, or, my daughter, like things like that, or I can't find my child, or my teenager ran away from home, things like that, right? Then I get a message from a woman on Facebook, and it said, someone told me to contact you and you could help me. I'm moving into a senior building and I have 2 cats and I live in Omaha, Nebraska. And the senior home I'm going to doesn't allow pets. And I don't want my cats to be killed. Can you please help me? So I thought, oh, wow, so being the person I am, I said, well, you know what? Because you got to always, I think it out. Like maybe this elderly woman really doesn't know about how to Google and all this stuff. So I replied, I will look into it right now. So here's me. This was a weekend. I'm on the phone calling all the no-kill shelters in Omaha, Nebraska, right? And so I finally find one that will go pick the 2 cats up. And then in the process, actually found a family to adopt the two children, the 2 cats. So the woman, I gave her the number to call. She called, then she contacted me like a week later and said, God bless you. Thank you so much. My 2 cats got to stay together and they're in a happy family. So I'm not only isolated to violence, right? So it's like, and now it comes really naturally to me because I found my purpose that God intended me probably to have all along, but I chose to take this big, long, detour. But in the end, I'm very blessed. I go to sleep. I don't have to worry that the police are going to bang my door and my rent's paid. As long as I pay my rent, my car payment, I'm a happy camper. And people, when I go, I just came from Miami on something I had to do there, playing myself in a documentary of like my true crime, kind of like a redemption, right, type of a movie. So they paid my way out there and stuff. But they were saying to me, what kind of foods do you want to eat, or what do you or do you like this? And I'm like, look, anything above sleeping on a cold prison floor, it's a win for me. I'm good. I'm not picky, So they're like, oh wow, I've never heard anyone say that. And I'm like, that's how I believe. So yes, God has blessed my life. I'm grateful to be with my family, my Uncle Joey, my Aunt Louise, my children like me again, So, so does anyone have any questions, or, cause I like to I don't want you to just keep hearing me blah, 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 so.
I have a question. So this is I'm sure real hard, but when you're talking to a young person who's 15 on the street and they're going down the wrong path and they're in a gang and all that, what kind of things do you find are most effective to get something across, or does it just kind of depend on the timing and whatever?
I know this is going to sound bad, but for lack of better wording, you have to trick them, like kind of like in a good way, deceive them to get a message in their brain, right? And so what I do, if I know someone's like, and I know a lot of people in this arena so I know who the players are, and if I get wind that some 15-year-old is now constantly drinking codeine cough syrup or things like that, then so you can't preach to them. They won't listen. They'll turn it right off, so you can't do that. So some things I'll say, if it's something to do with drugs, I'll go, so yeah, so I saw you on Facebook with the 2 cups. 2 cups is like the little undercover word for codeine cough syrup with Sprite, right? And they put 2 styrofoam cups together. That's the cool thing. So I go, yeah, I saw you with your 2 cups last night. And they're like, oh yeah, we had fun, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, so I use different techniques. One is that, like, so I know you guys think you invented this, like, because you call it lean and you mix it with Sprite, and but I'm gonna tell, and they respect me, so I could talk crazy to them, and I tell them, but actually you're like a little punk, and I'm not telling any of you guys to say this because you have to have a good relationship with the person to say this, but I say, actually, you're a little pansy punk, because in 1974 we used to write fake prescriptions and go to the pharmacy and get codeine cough syrup, go to the car, crack the bottle open, and down it straight from the bottle. So we were, the real deal. Now you guys are all cutesy, and then they start laughing, right? And then I'll say, so listen, so you got to get them to be like, it's got to be something funny. That's my tactic. Everyone has a different one, but to where it's like so you're not preaching or making fun of them, but you kind of are, but in a light way. And
You're
then I'll
building
say,
rapport.
yeah, absolutely, rapport. And then I will throw in there, well, you know what? Hey, I no judgment. I'm not judging you, but listen, baby, you got my number. So when those withdrawals start creeping in, that you are going to think that death is going to feel better than that, please call me. And they'll be like, what do you mean? And then I'll say it again, and then they'll say, like, what do you mean? And I'm like, so it's highly addictive. And I'll go, okay, well, you'll figure it out. And then I try to, like, I pretend like I'm brushing it off. Then I'm like, oh, look, so there's some dope addicts over there. So I guess they must be coming to cop. And then they'll be like, yeah. I'm like, well, so you're not going to sell any drugs around me, right? You're going to be respectful, right? Yeah. And then, like, yeah, I got those hypes. And I'm like, oh, wait, hypes. Wait, hold on. You're doing the same drug as them. They call it heroin, you call it codeine cough syrup. It's the same drug, it's the same addictive thing. And then they're like, it's like to plant the seed, right? Now, if it's a person, a young kid, 16, that's got punked out by a rival gang on Facebook, then I'm constantly, I stalk them all, believe me. I know everybody on north, south, here, there. And I stalk them, and they know, and I tell them to their family, like, I'm stalking your page, right? And they're like, yeah, I know. And so I don't do anything on the phone, but I'll go find that person, and sometimes they're like ready to go get a gun and load it, and they want to go kill, because more than 70% of all shootings and homicides in the city of Chicago initiate and escalate online and then go offline to a real shooting and or killing. So with that situation, while they're pissed, their own guys are like, you're gonna let them get away with that. And then, they're just like, they have no skills, no coping skills, right? And so I'll go, oh, no. They'll be like, Bianca, don't come over here with that anti-violence stuff right now, And then I'm like, no, I'm not, I'm just saying hi, what's going on? Oh, like, and then they're like, no, I'm gonna go do this. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I can understand. So you're going to go blow someone's brains out because they punked you out and your girlfriend cheated with them and they put it on Facebook. And like, yeah, what do you think of it? And then I go, oh no, I get it. Okay, so you're gonna go kill someone, and then because they punked you out on Facebook, I'm just trying to understand. So I play it like that. After you say that 3 or 4 times, they start, it reflects in their head like, wait, I'm gonna go kill somebody because my girlfriend cheated on me, or because he punked me out and said I'm a punk, on Facebook. And then they start laughing. And so then they'll be like, yeah, I see what you just did. And I'm like, I don't do anything. I'm just trying to be supportive here. You do what you want to do, just don't drag me in it. And then, okay. And then sometimes they try to brush me off and go, okay, Bianca, I'm not gonna go kill anybody. All right, I gotta go now. And I'm like, okay, where are we going? I'm like, okay, you're not coming with. And I'm like, I'm with you all night now. And they're like, and I'm like, okay, so I don't know if you have a gun, but if you do, just know that I am at risk because I'm an ex-felon. So I'm possibly could go to jail if you have a gun, but I'm willing to take that risk because I don't want you to kill anybody. And then they'll go, oh, I promise I'm not going to. I'm like, okay, great. Okay, where are we going? We're going to go eat. And then maybe his girlfriend pulled up and was like, babe, get in the car. And I was like, should I get in the back seat or you want me to get in the front? And he was like, no, you're not coming. And I'm like, I am not leaving you till I am sure, because if you leave, somebody could whisper back in their ear and get them mad again. So I've sometimes been out on the streets till 3 a.m. where I'm like, and like some kids have said to me, and sometimes I get up extra early on my way going to UIC, and I stop at these alternative schools in the hood. And some kids will say, Bianca, do you ever sleep? You're the last person I see at night and the first person in the morning, and like, I'm just trying to make sure you went to school, So I don't know. It just, it's case by case. Does it kind of answer your question?
Yeah, you're a very cool grandma. That's what I have to say.
My kids, my grandkids, they say it. They call me gangster grandma. And I'm like, oh God.
It could be that, Funkin.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So thank you I really have to get your book, and like, I can't believe some of the things you've told us, but it's really amazing. Do you often meet kids who like act one way in the group, but then secretly kind of want to get out and they just don't know how, like, because of the punishment of the gang or something? They're scared to leave.
The majority. So even some of the most high profile killings that you've probably seen on the news in the last couple of years, I've known those guys, like King Von and Doc and Young Pappy. I knew them all personally, and I tried so hard, and it hurts me. I don't even want to fool anybody here. Like, you work with a kid that long, and I'm trying to save their life, and then they get killed anyway because that's just their life, right? And it kills me. I remember one time walking into UIC, and as I got off the elevator, there was like 4 people in the School of Public Health waiting for me because everybody knew that I was very close and trying to help Young Pappy, the rapper who got killed. And so everyone knew I was gonna, so they were like, Bianca, my one of the directors was like, if you need counseling, UIC will provide it, blah, blah, And I was like, no, I'm gonna be okay. I was like so distraught. But so they all, when I get them, so the young kids, and even those that may they rest in peace now, but I'll say, come on, I'm going to take you to lunch. But I'm not going to go in the hood with them because at the hot dog stand, because they're targets. And I'm like, I don't think anybody would want to shoot Bianca, but some guys are such a high target that they might go shoot, but try to miss Bianca. You know what I mean? And a bullet has no name. So and I think to myself, I want to show these kids something different, right? So I have noticed where I get them in my car, and I'm like, and I go, we get out of the hood. And I usually, my spots to take them, like I pick different places, but they seem to like Little Italy. And so, and like, they've never like had a cannoli or cheesecake, and, and it's kind of fun. And I'll bring like 2 or 3 at the same clique, same gang. But then we'll be driving down Michigan Avenue. And I've even taken some to the Tilt, to the John Hancock building, and I use my own money for all this. And two of these big gang leaders, right, were young guys. They were like, oh, hell no, I'm not getting on that thing, And I'm like, wait, hold on. You're in the hood? strapped up with guns and stuff, and now you won't get on this. I'm like, oh my God, I am gonna talk about you. I'm telling everybody that you punked out and that you were scared. And they're like, oh my God, Bianca, you're not gonna do that. I'm like, oh yes, I will, you know? And so then I make them get on it with me. But when I have found that these kids were driving down Michigan Avenue, they're like this with on Snapchat with their phone. Like, you know, like you would think I brought them to the Caribbean, like St. Lucia, whatever it is, you know, or Trinidad or something. You would think that I just brought them to the Caribbean. And I started thinking they've never been to Michigan Avenue. They don't go out there, the blocks of their neighborhood. So then I started like taking the top, you can't take rival gangs together, but I do different things, you know? And so I started like getting tickets to the Sears Tower, to the observation, and, you know, just different little things like that to show them there's a different life, right? But you can't save everybody. But I do notice when I have them alone, they have a personality, they're funny, we have fun together, we laugh, we joke around, you know, and they're totally different, right? And to talk about God in the inner city hood, we all believe in God when we're out there, but we just don't believe God's got anything for us, you know? And even these kids, like, you know, at times I've seen them make the sign of the cross or, you know, something that's making a prayer to God, you know, because they know their time is running out, you know, and it's so very sad. So, yeah, they're totally, even the worst, the most, you know, like the top 5 that the Chicago police are looking at in the city of Chicago, when I get those top 5 by myself alone with them, they're totally different normal kids. It's really sad. Did that answer?
Yeah, I just like, because like you had mentioned earlier, a lot of them get kind of trapped in early on, or they get like enticed by things early on before maybe the frontal lobe issue.
Yeah.
But then when they come to realization or realize there might be a different life out there for them, a different calling, I just don't even know, like, what is the punishment for leaving, or could you become a target if you try to, or how do you kind of, because some of them might have a little bit of a rap sheet and something hold hell over their head that, you know, kind of like blackmail, they can't leave because people have gossip on them or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just don't know.
So different gangs have different rules, and today's gangs are not the gangs of the 70s, 80s, you know, or 90s. Like with so either you just like age out, like I just changed my life, so I'm respected by the Latin Kings, I'm not involved. But once you change your life, as long as you've truly changed it, nobody's going to hold that against you. You know what I mean? But if you try to be like, there's some people out there that are like, I changed my life and I'm doing this work now, but one foot's still in, then that's not going to end good, you know? But so it's not, so I don't judge people by a gang or anything, right? So I have no problems. But these young kids, if Latin Kings now, if you want to get out of the gang, you have to take a 7-minute beating by all the kings, which likely you probably won't survive that. And if you do, I don't know how that's going to look, you know, in 7 minutes to become a Latin king, Latin queen, it's a 3-minute beat down. And I remember me going through the 3-minute was like, oh my God, you know, bruised and, you know, messed up and stuff. But, and I was young, you know, but 7 minutes. And then so the getting jumped in 3 minutes, that's bad enough, but you're still in good grace because you want to become one of them. Now, if you're saying I want to get out and you got to take a 7-minute beating, they're mad at you. So you might not survive that 7 minutes. Now that's what the Latin Kings, other gangs, they just, I mean, it's not the same anymore. You could pretty much just fade away and move out the area and they don't hear from you and back off. And so it's not like the old school, but, I remember so I'd also do some volunteering with Westside Justice Authority, and I like my whole life is just work and volunteer, you know. So anyway, they have been doing work and also Illinois Access to Justice, and they have been helping to seal or expunge criminal records. And so it's a little bit of a process, but if I can, get these guys, but you gotta have not been arrested for a certain amount of time, and then before you can do that. And so, you know what, like people will say to me, even my brother, is it really worth that? How many do you save? It's so much heartache you go through, and I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to save one kid one day at a time, And so, yes, the number of that I lose is way higher than the number I save, right? But I don't care. As long as it's one, I'm good with that, right? So I can tell you when one of these kids gets killed, I take comfort. I start to think of the messages. This one kid, Larry, little Larry, they called him, and he was living, he was in a gang and out there bad, And so finally, after working with him for so long, I finally talked him into getting a job. And I went to the Jewel in Evanston and asked them would they give him a chance. So he had felony gun charges, but, and I had a rapport with that Jewel. And so they gave him a chance and they hired him as a bagger. And he kind of must have liked having a check or working and not being. So if they're working, that's less time you're on the corner on the street, right? So make a long story short, all of a sudden then now he's doing good working. I don't hear from him for like 2 years. Well, I'm like, and I'm every now and then trying to look him up and see, is he in prison? What happened? Nobody knew. So I'm like, whatever. So I get a message out of the blue. Bianca, this is little Larry. I got promoted. I'm sorry it's been so long, but I got promoted and I got a job in Schaumburg. And then I got a raise. So I was able to get an apartment. And then I met a girl. And then we had a baby and I have a son now. And I want you to come to my apartment in Schaumburg to meet my family because I wouldn't even have a family if it wasn't for you. And I was like, no, you have to thank God for that. That was God that put me to you, that you listened and the ball went, right? So I went to meet his family and his beautiful little baby boy that was 1 year old already, and the girlfriend cooked dinner and it was really nice, and so, I have a lot of stories like that. Another boy, who was going to kill himself because he wanted out of the gang. He was in Sacramento, California. Now, mind you, I never met this guy. I don't like the whole world has my phone number. And I think that if I ever had to be forced to get a new phone number, planet Earth would explode. Let me just tell you. Life as we know it would cease. So, so I get a call and this went on and I'm talking with this kid and he's a Crip and he wants to get out. They won't let him, blah, blah, this one, on and on and on. So I start getting a call and in the middle of the night, I'm in Chicago, waking me up and I could see it was him. So if it's something serious, I answer, and then we're talking and he's telling me he's going to kill himself. He just can't take it anymore. He's going to kill himself. So I'm trying to talk to him back and forth. He's hanging up on me. He's made his mind up. He's got a gun to his head. He's going to kill himself. So this went on for about 2 hours. I'm texting him. Finally, he was like, that's it. I'm done talking to you. Thank you so much for trying to help me. I love you. Goodbye. And that was it. I'm panicking. I'm on Facebook, looking on his Facebook page, trying to see who likes his post the most, going down those lists, sending messages. I know this is going to sound crazy. It's the middle of the night. My name is Bianca. I'm from Chicago. I'm not the police. I'm not the FBI. I need to please call me. Here's my number. Finally, a girl calls. And then, so I end up blah, blah, this went on. So like for 4 or 5 hours all night from my dark bedroom, sitting on my bed with my phone, and finally mediated that whole conflict. But within his gang, the girl I called, some of the gang members lived in the basement of the building, the basement apartment. And I said, please, this is life or death. Don't ask any questions. I go, just go downstairs, knock on the door and hand somebody the phone. And then she was like, okay, I'll call you back. And she wasn't calling back. So I called her back again. And I'm like, are you in the basement apartment? I'm like, I need to talk with one of the guys. And so I started talking with them and this one, on. Anyway, they were okay with, we worked it out. The kid didn't kill himself. He went back to high school and he graduated. He had his girlfriend film him going on the stage when he got his diploma from high school. And he said on the stage, and I still to this day never met this kid. And he said on the stage, which I started crying because I'm tagged in this video on Facebook. And this would not be possible without Bianca from Chicago, you know? And I was like, oh my God, you know, because he would have killed himself, you know? So, yeah, crazy, but yeah.
I have a quick
Bianca,
question.
go ahead, Tammy.
Sorry. Is there time?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. You know, you say you started this at 9 years old, and you say, you know, maybe lack of supervision or whatnot. I'm not sure, but what could have adults in your life helped you prevent, like, the heartache you had to go through to get to this point? Like, you know, I know you say your mother wasn't around, or what could a teacher have done? What could have a person from the neighborhood? What could have helped you?
Well, I think that, like, again, this was another time of life. It's not today's world, but I do have a couple teachers that I always remember. Miss Kleiber, my third grade teacher, and my art teacher. They always encouraged me. And, you know, Miss Kleiber was my Spanish teacher and my history teacher. And I always got like really good grades, and I love stuff like that. And so I think that if, you know, when they started seeing me coming to school drunk at 9 years old, 10 years old, you know, I don't know, like I got sent to the social worker, but, you know, see, here's where I think the problem for me was I was so ridiculously spoiled, like ridiculously. I got anything I wanted, even more than my little sister. And because she was 1 when my mother left, I was 5. So, and I think I had, you know, I was like I said, I was a smart kid. And I would hear when my grandma would have her, you know, ladies come over for coffee, and they'd always look at me and my sister and go, oh, Maria, those poor little girls, you know? And I thought, oh boy, you know, and then they slip me a 20, put this in your drawer and put in your piggy bank, you know, things like that. So I think that my grandmother was not, it was okay, we barely are starting to talk about mental health illness now, barely, right? We're barely becoming aware of that this is not a bad plague, that if you may be bipolar or depressed, there's help, right? 1963, 4, oh my God, you know, because I remember saying to my grandmother, you should send her to counseling. And it was like, the neighbors, oh my God, nobody can ever do that. So I don't blame my family. I think they did the best they could, but they probably should not have spoiled me. I think that teaching your children the value of $1, some responsibility. I was never allowed in the kitchen. I never cooked. I never picked up anything. When I got home from, my grandmother was like having a nanny, let me just tell you. And I'd go in my bedroom and just take my clothes off, you know, and just leave them just step out of my jeans and put my nightgown on, you know, and then in the morning, just step out of that. And I mean, like, I was just out of control, spoiled. Read the book and you'll be like, oh my God, you know? So overcompensating because of me not having my mother, right? And I think that, you know, was not a good thing to do. And I think that they knew at the time of 10, 11, my grandmother used to always go, you smell like whiskey, when I would be high. And it wasn't whiskey, it was barbiturates. So there's no smell to a pill that you took, you know, but she was so old school, and she'd be like, I know you drank whiskey, you smell like whiskey. And I'd be like, Grandma, I didn't drink whiskey, you know? So, I don't think they knew how to handle that. I don't think they were equipped with that, how to handle it, what to do. I think they thought this was something that I would grow out of. You know what I mean? But I always encourage parents, like I was always drawing and I was always painting. I remember my dad, he was never home. My family owns Jane and Jude's. So my father was always at work. You know what I mean? He ran it. My Uncle Gene was never there. And my father, Pete, who was, you know, died, I told you. Anyway, so he was hardly home. And so I was just me, my grandma, and my sister. And I think that they felt like, you know, I remember my grandmother saying, Petey, you got to do something with with your daughters, take them out, or, you know, like it was just dysfunctional in its own way. You know, I mean, I guess everybody's family has a little dysfunction, but I can say without a doubt that my family my grandmother loved me and my sister and everyone in the family, and I had a lot of love. Okay. And unfortunately, my mindset took advantage of that. And my grandmother died with a broken heart because of it, sadly. Yeah. So I don't know. You know, I encourage parents and teachers, and because I speak at grade schools, high schools, all over the place, right? And I get asked the same question you just asked me all the time. And I always encourage, because every child has something that they kind of like a little bit more than anything else. So if it's music, maybe they want to play the drums. I know that probably the parents' nightmare to buy a drum set for their kid, but piano, maybe they like to play basketball, you know, get them involved in a team. You have to nurture and pull out whatever it is that they have. There's something in every single child that I meet, even a gangbanger. Like I brought 4 gang guys, really high risk. In fact, I brought them to a Bulls game, and I have a connection with the Bulls, and I got courtside seats. And so here's me with these 4 major players in the gang. And who knew this? Wait till you hear this. So I don't tell them where we're sitting. So I'm like, come on, follow me. Let's go. And they're like, wait, aren't we? They're thinking we're going way in the nosebleed, you know? And I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, you got us in the mezzanine. I'm like, no, let's go. Keep up. Come on. Go the next one, past the next security, past the net. Now we're on the court. And they're like, oh my God. I'm like, here's our seats right here. This is some Obama. This is some presidential stuff, you know? And I'm like, whatever, you know? So anyway, on that game, they had the Jesse White tumblers, right? You know, in the halftime. So the Jesse White tumblers are doing their thing. And the guy I'm sitting next to, who I can proudly say has changed his life after being shot about 4 different times. But anyhow, he's sitting next to me. They call him Trap the shooter. So he's sitting next to me, and the tumblers are going, and one of the tumblers sees us sitting there because we're on the court, and he runs over to Trap, and he's like, hey, good seeing you. And they high five it. And I go, how do you know them? And he goes, I used to be a Jesse White tumbler. Who would have thought this? You know what I mean? So maybe if he would have been more nurtured, right? You know, and I go, get out of here. You did those jumps and stuff. And he's like, yeah. And then I'm like, and then what happened? And he's like, then I started gangbanging. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I need you to do a backflip for me tomorrow in the park. I need, you know? So yeah. So, but there's always, you got to dig deep. You got to pay attention. You got to see what they like. Like, no preaching, because they're not going to listen then, right?
Since most of us don't have your backgrounds, and tonight, you know, and every night we see on the news all these terrible shootings and violence, what's something we can all do to make the world better without your background and your expertise?
Yeah, well, continue calling your legislators in your district, in your area. The problem right now, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, in Chicago. So Chicago has more money for violence prevention than they ever had in the whole history of Chicago since the Chicago fire. Okay, they have at least, just the city of Chicago, at least $20 million of funding to go to violence prevention. The Cook County has the most money ever. The state of Illinois, ICJA, the Illinois Department of Criminal Justice, who funds out programs through the state of Illinois, has the most money ever in history for violence prevention. The federal government, with the administration giving a ton of money allocated for violence prevention, with the focus and priority on Chicago, right? So why is it that our shootings and homicides have already tripled from last year? I can answer that for you, because they're giving the money to the wrong organizations. They're giving the money to, like, whoever gets up there and talks the best game, okay, we'll give you 10 million. Okay, we'll give you 5 million, you know? And I know, and it's sad because I get calls all the time and people are like, and I don't want to bash anybody or anything like that, but I'm not going to lie either. And I just got a call last week from Springfield, and they were like, let me ask you about these organizations. And you tell me yes or no, because I know you know everything, you know everybody, and you hear all the background chatter. And I'm like, okay, go ahead, start. You know, that they'll say a name. Nope. Why? Because they don't really work. I never see them on the west side. They're supposed to be working in Garfield and Lawndale. I've yet to see them in the last 2 years they've been getting funding. Move on. And then this one. Nope. Why? This because of this. Third one. They do give them a little bit, you know. You know what I mean? So the money is going to the wrong places. I know Alderman Lopez just tweeted in the 15th district, and he tweeted like, enough is enough, so many shootings, this, that, and the other, whatever. He's tweeted, he's pissed, what's going on? Enough is enough. So I said, you have to look at who, and I'm friends with him. I'm friends, to both sides of the aisle. I don't judge anybody. I'm just trying to make us come together and make things better. And so mothers could quit crying over coffins, right? So I replied to his tweet. You have to look at who you are giving funding for violence prevention. You are giving money to the wrong programs. Meanwhile, mothers are crying over their child's coffin. I just tweeted that this morning or last night, and I'm getting all these notifications. People are liking, so I mean, I could surely just call him and tell him that, and I but it's better when you get the general public to think like that too. Like, hey, wait a minute, that makes sense. So it's sad, and so like regular people, I mean, you can't go out on the street on the corner and the hood, right? You're not going to go hang out on Madison and Pulaski, but get involved like that. There are, I'll send Terry a list of different organizations that you can be involved in that are safe and not going on the street, and some are even in the suburbs, you know what I mean, that work with at-risk youth. Because, like, for example, Bellwood, Maywood, those areas that surrounding River Forest, right? They have their own set of problems, the same as the West Side. And I have found that the gang members and at-risk youth on the North Side really are connected to the West Side of Chicago, who are also connected to the West suburbs, who are also connected to. So it's not just like, so you would think, oh, well, the gang members in Maywood wouldn't know the gang members in Rogers Park. Yeah, they do, So I'll provide a list of different organizations that you can make a difference by, a lot of, with no major effort, but of different legislators that you could call. Even in, I did a book signing at the River Forest Library, and I have haters apparently. Anyway, so I got a death threat, and so I know, crazy, right? I mean, if I saw you on the street, and any of you, and it was bitter cold out, and you didn't have, and you had a sweater and I had a warm coat, I swear to God, my right hand to God on my grandmother, I would take my coat off and give it to you so you could be warm and I'd be cold, So why would I get a death threat? You know what I mean? So, but anyway, so the River Forest Police said, we checked it out and we don't believe it, but we still have to provide, we have to be safe. So, and I never even knew River Forest had a SWAT team, but you guys do. So anyway, so, at the library, they had it like where I had to get there early so they could show me the escape plan in case. And I'm like, oh my God. And I had to give them my car keys. And they were like, okay, if anything happens, we'll usher that. Like the River Forest Library, it's so old and majestic, but it's got some side doors, like secret doors. Very cool. I didn't know this, like we're going to go out this door and then we're going to have a squad car and all this whole plan, like who I was. Who am I? I'm just the girl, and anyway, nothing happened. But at the end of it, I felt bad that River Forest had to exhaust all these resources, right? You know what I mean? And my son came late. And my son, it's about a half hour into it, and he pulls up and he's like, what? You know, his SWAT team, police everywhere at the door. You had to go through the, like if you went in the parking lot, they didn't search your car, but they looked. Okay, go ahead. Then you had to go through cops. So he stopped one of the cops and he was like, I'm sorry, is the president in there speaking? Is the president of the United States in there speaking? And the cop was like, no, just some lady named Bianca who wrote a book. And then he goes, oh my God, that's my mother, you know? So he comes in when he sits down in the front. I go, oh, and there's my beautiful son. Hi, Sean, you know? And so he's only there for about 10 minutes and he leaves. So afterwards I said, Sean, I called him, I go, honey, why did you leave after 10 minutes? He goes, Mom, I started getting freaked out because I missed a car payment. And I started thinking, are they running plates? Are they going to repossess my car? And I go, oh my God, it was so funny. So he got like freaked out. So he left, you know, but anyway. And so if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have even have known the SWAT team was there. But anyway, how crazy. But after the fact, I had to wait till everyone left. I couldn't leave. Police were literally assigned to me, had to walk me to my car and follow me to the edge of town, you know. But I went to the chief of police, Shar, I can't remember his name, but anyway, wonderful man. And I said to him, I went up to him and I said, Chief, I just want to tell you, I am so sorry that you had to exhaust all these resources. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. He said, you know what? No. He goes, you know what? Because he had to put extra cops on duty, right? And he said, I'm looking at this, that my police officers got a paid training. They're being paid for being on the job right now. And you taught them a whole lot of stuff that they wouldn't have known before, just during your speaking, you know? And I was like, oh, okay. And then he was like, would you be okay to come to the police station and do a whole, you know? And I go, sure. And I have. And so I'm like, okay. And then I was the keynote speaker once for the FBI. Can you believe their annual conference? And anyone reading my book, you will see that the FBI chased me across the country because I'm like kind of a version of Catch Me If You Can, kind of a, you know, con girl, but back then. So I was asked to be the keynote speaker at the FBI annual conference. I was like, oh my God. So anyway, they fly me out there. So anyhow, I'm the first speaker. I stayed all day. And at the end of the day, and I wasn't about selling books. I couldn't bring any books. But a lot of the agents and the undercover gang units and the suit guys, they already bought my book, right? So at the end of the day, I'm just, you know, I stayed for the whole day's conference. And so then they're in a line. And then they're like, hey, can you sign my book? And I was like, yeah, sure. You know, like, okay. So I jokingly take the book and I don't have them, but anyway, but I jokingly like pick it up and I go, okay, so you want me to, wait, hold on. There's no statement in here, is there? Like, are you trying to get me to sign a statement? And they started laughing, right? And I said, how ironic. You guys chased me all over trying to put me in jail. And now you want my autograph, right? So they're cracking up. And so like and they were really nice guys. And one guy said, an older man who was retired, who came just for the conference, said, you know, I do actually remember when they were chasing you from coast to coast, when you were scamming the airlines, you know, and stealing money, embezzling from the airlines. And I was like, boy, what a ride I gave you guys, huh? He goes, oh yeah. So, but anyway, so yeah, it's crazy, but you know, I feel like that my experience, you know, like can add to like, because you could have all the degrees in the world, but if you don't really know and like you know what I can't even put it in words, but it's not going to matter, because you can't go talk to an at-risk youth and go, oh, I know you want to talk to me because I have 3 master's, you know, degrees or something, or I graduated from Princeton. So yeah, it's crazy, but there's a lot to be said about experience, and all of you have experience in something, you know, and maybe like with my grandmother, I wish I would have listened when she was trying to teach me how to make spaghetti sauce, you know, maybe, but that wasn't my thing, right? But you might have children that might be like, oh, I want to learn to cook. Start teaching them. Take an hour a week and teach them. That puts their mind, that's an hour they're not, you know, so Anyone
Well,
else?
Bianca, I thank you so much. I'm so happy that you came.
Oh, it's
uh,
all my honor. Thank you.
I mean, and I'm looking forward to seeing the list of, so I can forward it to everybody for what you can, who they can support.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
there's one is traffic free for human trafficking, and there's like it's like they have a safe how I don't know, whatever, even for sex workers or whatever, but they don't give the address, but there's cards. I keep them in my car. So if I see a girl out there for days and days or whatever, I'll say, here, take this card, and then they have to text the number, they text a number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it comes back with the address because it moves around because we have to protect them. So I volunteer for them too. And so there's some things you could just do with some calls or just different stuff, but I'll get that to you by tomorrow.
All right, thank you. And thanks everybody for coming. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you all
Enjoy the
so
rest of the
much.
day.
I really enjoyed talking, and you probably, yeah. So I could go on for days, believe me. I probably need to write 10 more books, but anyway, thank you. And I love all you guys, and God bless you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
very much. Our speaker next week is Martha Woods. So just about her journey. Okay, see y'all next week. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.